to try this. I have no idea how to start this video or what to even do. So hello, I'm gonna try making another video since it's been half a decade since I've done that. Just to get started on everything, I've already done my base, so I'm just gonna start doing makeup and just start talking about things that have happened in the last couple of months. So I don't know if anybody knows, but I was engaged not that long ago. I got engaged in September, and the relationship I wouldn't say was the best relationship that I've ever had. But it wasn't a terrible relationship. It definitely wasn't the worst relationship that I've ever had, because I was in an actual abusive relationship for 3.5 years, so that was nowhere near that. However, I feel like the relationship was not right for either of us. I feel like we just weren't exactly what each other needed. And I will say I put as much effort as I possibly could into that relationship. I put all of the effort that I can into any relationship that I have, whether it's romantic or not. So I will say that I definitely put in all of the effort that I possibly could. I tried as hard as I possibly could in this relationship to make it work. I also will say that he was the first man that I ever dated. I previously exclusively only dated women, so he definitely helped me experience something that I've never experienced and learn something about myself and the fact that I am capable of loving a man. I'm also capable of loving a woman, and I also know for a fact that I would be capable of loving someone in between that gender spectrum, whatever it might be. So he did help me come out as pansexual and come to terms with myself being pansexual and knowing that I have that capability of loving anyone for who they are, not based off of their gender or their sexuality. So definitely that is something I'm extremely grateful for, because I don't know if I ever would have come to terms with that on my own if he and I had never started dating. And again, like, he isn't a bad person. It didn't work out. So we got engaged in September, and I will say that I don't think that we were ready to be engaged when we did get engaged. And honestly, he said that there just wasn't any more excuses or any reason for him to not ask. He just felt like it was time, and according to him, he kind of made the decision overnight. So nobody else was involved, which is fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing. He just kind of texted my best friend and my parents and was just like, hey, I'm proposing tomorrow. I feel like it was very haphazard and I didn't put a ton of thought into it and a ton of energy into the proposal. It was just very, oh, well, I know she likes this location, so, like, why not? I did say yes, even though in the back of my head I felt like it was too soon and we weren't ready. However, my thinking was, we'll have a long engagement and we'll just work on it from there. We'll work on our relationship. We'll work on our future marriage during our engagement. And we were planning on having quite a long engagement. We got engaged in September of 2018, and our goal was January of 2020 to get married. So, you know, that is quite a decent engagement, and it's definitely possible to work on a relationship during that time. So that was my thought process when I said yes. Should I have said no? Should I have said maybe? Should I have said let's wait? I don't know. I don't know if anything would have been different if I had done that. I really don't. But I did say yes. We were very excited. We had a lot of support from our friends, our family, things like that. It was not bad. It was very exciting. Being engaged is very exciting. Being newly engaged is very exciting. And then pretty quickly after we got engaged, I kind of noticed that the effort on his part kind of dwindled. I wouldn't say that it was non-existent, but it definitely took a hit, and it definitely was nowhere near what it used to be when we first started dating. The effort just kind of went away, and I don't know if it was just like, oh, well, we're engaged, we're gonna get married, the hard part's over. Wrong. I've never been married before, and I only want to get married one time in my life. And I definitely know for darn tootin' sure that the effort does not go away once you get married. If anything, the effort is intensified. Anytime I felt like the relationship wasn't working, even if it was just in that moment, it was just like a, hey, something's up, something's wrong. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out what's going on. Is this going to be a long-term issue? Is this going to be a short-term issue? Is this just an issue that I'm making up in my head? Because I do tend to do that. As I said before, I was in an abusive relationship for 3.5 years, so I very much suffer from depression, anxiety. I also recently came to terms with and learned that I also suffer from PTSD. So I have a lot of issues that I have to deal with. And I'm not saying that I'm at all trying to put that burden on someone else, because I'm not. It's not someone else's burden to bear. However, it is nice to have a partner that's willing to help you in those situations as much as possible. Even if helping means stepping back and giving you your space and saying, I'm here if you need me, is amazing. And for the most part, I felt like I didn't have that. And I don't know if it was just because I didn't fully understand all of the issues that I was going through, or understand all of my anxiety. And I still don't to this day understand all of my anxiety. There are certain things that give me anxiety, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Like, sometimes I just don't understand it. But I definitely have learned a lot about myself in the recent months. And I still learn new things about myself every single day. But I felt like those issues with me were kind of ignored and just kind of pushed to the side. Even sometimes I felt like he would trigger me, not on purpose, but there were definitely some instances that should have been some red flags to say, hey, this isn't working. That's inappropriate. You should never treat your partner that way. And he never, like, purposely hurt my feelings. I'll say that for a fact. He definitely never purposely hurt my feelings. However, there were some instances where he would say things that would truly hurt me and would trigger me. And I would do my best to explain it, but the majority of the time I felt like he didn't listen to me or even try to understand. And I'm never asking for like full understanding of what I'm going through. I totally understand if you've never experienced it yourself, not being able to completely sympathize with someone. So I totally understand that. However, if I say, hey, don't say something like this, say it more like this, and I'll be able to understand you better, and you just like brush it off and you're like, okay, well, that's how I say things, so deal with it. Okay, things could be a little bit better. There were quite a few red flags that I just brushed off and basically just used that excuse again of, oh, it'll get better. But it didn't. So it just slowly was falling apart as the months went by. So my birthday was in February. That blew hard chunks. I don't really blame anybody. I don't like my birthday. It just never works out. Skipping that. Don't even worry about that. But pretty much after that, I guess I'm just using February as a reference point, because like that was really where things started, like, okay, this really is not going well. Like, we need to figure this out, and we need to figure it out quick. Because I was starting to be like, okay, I'm not going to put any more effort if you're not going to put in any more effort, you know? And for me, it was always a we effort. It was never like he said, she said, oh, well, you're not putting enough effort in, so, like, what am I supposed to do? Things like that. It was more like, what do we need to do to fix this? Like, this feels like a weak link, so let's figure out how we need to fix it. And I do feel like it was very one-sided. I feel like a lot of the time I wasn't heard, or I wasn't listened to, or I wasn't taken seriously. I don't even know how to explain it. About 3 months later, with a lot of confiding in friends, because I was very private about our relationship, because I don't really like people to know what's really going on. Not that I'm trying to, like, keep it a secret, but, like, it's not really anybody's business what's going on in my personal relationships unless I want you to know about it. So I did confide in friends and really just like, hey, this isn't working. I even confided in my mom, saying, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, I'm exhausted emotionally, physically. My needs are not being met. Financially, I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm running this relationship and I'm not getting any help anytime soon. He does have some health issues. I can understand with health, things can be difficult or different. So I understand that aspect. However, I felt like he just kind of took his diagnosis and basically just accepted that he was terminal and was just like, okay, well, I'm already dead, and basically lived his life like he was dead. And there was no effort in trying to prolong his life or trying to do anything to better himself. And I guess this is kind of a part where I see where I could have done better, because I would say that I was an instigator, because I could have said no to getting him certain foods or certain drinks. I could have said, no, like, if you want, I can get you this instead of this unhealthy option. I'll get you this healthier option. If you want to get this unhealthy option, like, you have to go get it yourself. I definitely could have done that, and I didn't. And again, I think that reasoning is because I'm such a pleaser. Like, I like to make sure that the people that I'm in a relationship with are happy at all times. And when they're not, I like to do whatever I can to make sure that they are happy. So I'm not saying that I was right. I wasn't. I should have done what I could have to not instigate what was going on, because he was not taking care of himself, and I wasn't doing any better by giving him what he wanted when it wasn't good for him. Yikes, I almost just spilled powder everywhere. And that's something that I also learned about myself in these last couple of months. I do have a say in things. I'm allowed to say no. That's something that's very difficult for me, especially in a romantic relationship. In so many aspects of that word, it's very difficult for me to say no. It's very difficult for me to say, I'm not comfortable doing that, because I'm so used to there being such a negative backlash, whether it being physical, mental, verbal, whatever it might be. I'm so used to there being such a negative backlash that I'm made to feel like the bad guy, or I'm wrong, or like, how dare you think that? Like, oh, well, I'm allowed to feel how I want to feel when, you know, so am I. Learning that was a big deal for me, and learning that I do have a say in the relationship, and I'm allowed to say no. I'm allowed to say no even if it involves you. So after February, and I kind of sort of realized, hey, things aren't working well, and I started opening up and being like, hey, does anybody have any advice? What do you think I should do? And, you know, there were a lot of good things. There's a lot of good advice, a lot of good things being said to try to help. And everything that I feel like I tried, maybe even he tried, it just didn't work. It wasn't working. May rolls around and I'm over it. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted. I want it to be over, but at the same time, I also want it to be good. I also want it to be okay. I want it to be fixed, but I know that it can't be fixed. So I did give him plenty of chances. I gave him plenty of warnings. This was not a surprise. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you were suffering, or I had no idea that you weren't happy. Like, it was nothing like that. So I'm just stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I feel very, very alone. My depression is just kicking my butt. I get very depressed when I'm not able to be myself, when I'm not able to fully be me and fully be able to express myself, whether it's with makeup, whether it's just with talking, whether it's just in life in general, whatever it is, I get depressed because of it. When it's pretty big. And I wouldn't say that he didn't want me to do makeup or anything like that. He would say that he was supportive, but I feel like, I don't want to say I feel like, I know that actions speak louder than words. And his actions definitely proved to me that he did not fully support what I did, and he wanted all of the attention on himself, whether that involved friendship or even my makeup, me doing videos or anything like that. If I was more focused on that, honestly, at any given moment, it was a big deal, and there was usually some kind of a disagreement. So April was a pretty hard month for me, specifically, just because I was wrestling with myself and trying to figure out, do I want to keep holding on? Do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to be in this relationship forever? No, at this point, I don't want to marry him. I don't want to be with him for the rest of my life if this is how it's going to be. Because at this point, we'd been together for over a year, and honestly, things have gotten worse. Things are nowhere near how we were when we first got together. And my anxiety was through the roof. My depression was through the roof. I was very unhappy, and I was very, very alone. And this is not the first time that I've experienced loneliness while being in a relationship. And it's definitely something that I never really want anybody that I care about, or even that I don't care about. I really don't want anybody to experience that, because it's terrible. Laying in bed next to someone that you think isn't attracted to you anymore, or doesn't love you anymore, or is basically just ignoring you, and you feel completely alone, is just one of the worst feelings in the world. Being next to someone that you love and care about and not feeling those emotions reciprocated is just one of the worst things that I've ever been through on multiple occasions. And because I'd been through so many difficult relationships, not necessarily all of them bad, but difficult situations where I've seen relationships go from good to bad to worse to done. And I know where the defining moments are in relationships. Like, hey, this is a red flag, or hey, this is a broken link, or hey, this is something that needs to be fixed or swept up or cleaned up or something. since I have seen those firsthand on multiple occasions, I can say, hey, this is something we need to focus on and we need to fix. However, it wasn't getting fixed. Nothing was getting fixed. Everything was either staying the same or it was just dwindling further and further and further away. And it was not pretty. Okay, so April rolls around and I'm like, I know that this tooth is just dangling by one almost completely dead root. But I want to know for myself that I have truly put in every last effort that I possibly can. 1 week before I decided to completely end the relationship, I gave him the engagement ring back, which was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, on that day, I wanted it to be over, but I really wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see if it would change anything, if it would affect anything, if I was like, hey, I want you to take this ring back, and I want you to figure out when it's actually time to give it back. I kind of want you to earn me being your fiance back. So I gave it back to him just to see if it would make a difference, if it would help, if it would click something in his brain to be like, okay, I get it. Like, okay. It didn't. He really just wanted me to continue wearing it. He begged me over and over for multiple chances, and I was basically saying, this is another chance. I'm just giving you the ring back. We're still together, but I don't want to be engaged to you anymore. I want you to earn this ring back on my finger. I want you to earn that spot of being my fiance. I guess we'll go over to this side. It did not make a difference, unfortunately. And honestly, it broke my heart, because this is not my first time being in love. This is not my first time. It's my first time being engaged. It was not my first time wanting to marry someone, though. And I honestly think that he was done with the relationship too. He just didn't want to admit it, or he didn't understand that he was done with it, because the reaction to me giving the ring back was just so lackluster. And he put it in a singing bowl on the dresser right next to the TV. And I just sat there, didn't move. And we went on one date during that time. We kind of just did everything as normal, but I specifically wanted to go on a date. I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to see if he would be like we were in the beginning, and just be like, let's get to know each other again. Anything, just literally anything that would tell me, okay, he still wants this. He still wants us as us. And it was the most awkward date I've ever been on in my life. And I've been on some really awkward first dates, and it was more awkward than some first dates that I've been on. And he knows about my anxiety. He knows about my social anxiety. I am not a fan of people. And I'm not a fan of people, especially if I don't know them, touching me or being in my space. I'm very much the type of person that feeds off of other people's energy, whether I know them or not. So when people are in my general vicinity, I can already feel their energy, whether it's good or bad. And if it's a bunch of people in a space, my body and my brain just get very overwhelmed, and I sometimes have anxiety or even panic attacks because of it, because I don't know what to focus on. Like, I don't know where to put my focus. And something that's helped me is just focusing on like 5 objects in the room that I'm in, just like a mirror, a brush, a phone, a light, just something to focus on, so I'm not like focusing on all of the people around me. I can't do noises. If I think too much on noises, I get overwhelmed and I get a sensory overload. So noises are a no-go for me because that'll freak me out even more. And he was very aware of things like that. I'm very open about my anxiety. I'm very open about how my body reacts to certain things. So I get very overwhelmed. I'm not a fan of people. And like, I love people. People are really cool. But people are also really, really terrible. And I think it's just that whole, like, I don't know if you're going to be cool or if you're going to be terrible. That gives me anxiety. But I really, really, really don't like strangers touching me. Like, even if it's just like a brush on the shoulder, like, I don't like people touching me. Unless I know you and I'm comfortable with you, I don't want you to touch me. So being in really big crowds can get very difficult for me. And on that date specifically, there was very big crowds, and there was a certain moment where we were stuck in the middle, not moving. And automatically my brain is constantly looking for outs, constantly looking for the safest exit. How can I get out of this room? How can I get out of this situation? How can I get out of where I'm at right now? So I knew where the closest exit was in that exact moment. And I definitely have certain things that I do when I'm anxious. I like to cross my arms or put them close to my body so that I am making myself as small as possible. Sometimes I'll even do this when I need to focus. I also do this a lot when I'm trying not to cry, especially in public. Like, I think I'm trying to focus on my hands moving as opposed to whatever it is that's bothering me. And I think in this instance, I was very, very like, I want to be alone. Like, I don't want people touching me. I was very closed off, and like I wasn't even speaking. And he was not touching me at all. And I don't know if it was just him trying to not touch me. And according to him, I think he was trying to help give me space, when in those instances, it helps me to have someone that I trust to touch me or block off other people from touching me so that I know that I'm safe. Like, someone else isn't. I'm getting anxious thinking about it. Like, yes, hold my hand. Yes, put your arm around me. Like, even just like put me in front of you so that like there's a straight shot. Like, I'll take whatever's behind us. Like, that's cool. That's fine. But there was definitely a big gap between the two of us, and he was the only person in this huge crowd that I knew. So I'm like freaking out about it right now. So him not even asking if I'm okay, or hey, is there anything that I can do? And it was just very awkward, and it was very lonely. He didn't hold my hand at all on the date, even while we were sitting down. Like, nothing. It was just very awkward and it was the end. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was very awkward, and like I knew that it wasn't going to happen anymore. But just learning new things about my anxiety and what I do and don't like, and what is okay and what isn't okay. Learning what helps me. I don't know if he had anxiety. I don't think he did. And he may have, but I really don't think he did. I think it was just, hey, I'm stuck in my head and I'm thinking I can't do anything, so I'm not going to. And then there was just a day where I was like, I'm done. I want to break up with you. And I specifically said the words, I want to break up with you. And it was before we went to bed. I think we had worked that day, and it was before we went to bed. But like, I wasn't going to be able to go to sleep unless I pulled that trigger or I made that decision out loud. Like, this is not working. I want to break up. This last week, I've seen zero improvement. I've seen zero effort to fix things. I can't do this anymore. It was definitely the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. Again, because I like to make people happy that I care about, it's really difficult for me to say things that I know will hurt them, even if it's going to, in the long run, be the best thing for them to hear. For myself to say, it's very difficult. So just saying the words, I want to break up with you, were very, very difficult. It's a hard decision to break up with anybody, but to break off an engagement altogether it's a whole different thing. I will say that nothing for our wedding was planned, not one single thing. There was no date that was picked out. No, we had a venue in mind, but it's not like we had booked anything or anything like that. Like, literally nothing was planned. There was no save the date or anything. No, nothing. And that's kind of a red flag as well. If you are engaged for like, what is that, 7 months, 6-7 months, and you haven't planned anything, like, that's kind of a problem. Like, that's a red flag to me. Anyway, we were in the process of moving out and having our own place and being away from having roommates. So I think that was also part of it. He was trying to say, give it a little bit more time and we'll have our own time and our own space. Like, our days off are changing. Like, we'll have our own time and we'll have our own space. And like, I couldn't hold on any longer. Even if I wanted to, even though I wanted to, like, I couldn't do it. Because things were just, I wasn't happy. And happiness is so important. And I'm not saying that every single moment of your life or of your relationship you have to be happy, because obviously that's impossible. And if that's something that you're looking for, I think that you're going to be, I don't think you're ever going to find true happiness. And I don't think you're ever going to be fully happy or fully satisfied with anything, because there's always going to be ups and downs in life, no matter what. My life motto is literally, and it came to pass. It's from the scripture. And for me, it means whatever is happening, whether it's good or bad, hold on to it, learn from it, experience it while it's happening, because it's not going to stay like this forever. So if you're having the best time of your life, like, live it, love it, know it, because it's not going to be like this forever. You're not going to be this happy, like something that's going to happen. You're going to be sad. And if you're going through the worst time of your life, you're going through the worst 3 months of your whole life, hang on, because it's going to get better. Like, if you're at your very bottom, the only place you can go up. That's the only place you can go. You can only go up. If you're terrible, if you're at the bottom, that's it. That's the only place that you can go, is up. It came to pass. It will pass. And things are going to be okay again. And it's not my first rodeo. It's not my first time ever having to rebuild my life or rebuild from the end of a relationship. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. It just sucked. I ended up moving into the spare bedroom, which we were very lucky to have that spare bedroom. I ended up moving in there just, for space, to have my own space. And it wasn't like a full-on, like, oh, I'm grabbing all of my stuff and moving it 2 doors over. Like, we all have to move out of this house anyway. Like, why do I need to move all of my stuff? I don't need all of my stuff. Like, I still trusted him. Like, I didn't think he was gonna, like, set all my stuff on fire or anything. I'm like, God forbid if you did. Like, I have an army behind me. Like, if you mess with me, like, I have, like, 100 other people that are gonna come for you. So, like, go ahead. Like, if you want to burn my stuff, by all means, please burn my stuff. But I didn't spend a lot of time in the house. I spent a lot of time with my friends, and honestly, I didn't want to be alone. So I spent a lot of my time with friends and away from the situation just because it was hard. Like, when things like that happen, I'm not necessarily running away from them, but I am separating myself from situations like that just because they are difficult. And also, I need clarity. I need to figure out what the next step is for me, because I'm making that by myself now. I'm making that decision as to where I'm going and what I'm doing alone at this point. I don't need anybody else's, not necessarily opinion, but I don't need to make that decision with someone else for the both of us. Like, I'm making that decision for me. Where do I want to go and what do I want to do? So separating myself from that situation so that I can decide those things on my own is very important. I guess during that time, he moved all of my stuff from, well, I'll put in air quotes, all of my stuff into the middle room. We technically had 2 rooms. So there was 3 rooms in the hallway. There was the room that we shared, the middle room, which was kind of like halvesies, where I had my vanity and all of my makeup and stuff. And then a spare bedroom that no one was really in. Occasionally we had some friends there. We had an extra bed in there. Like, it all worked out. So he had moved all of my stuff from the room that we shared together into the middle room where all of my makeup was. Like, I'm kind of halvesies on it. Like, I don't really know how I feel about it. I wish he had talked to me about it. I wish he had just sent me a brief message to be like, hey, I'm moving your stuff. Are you comfortable with me moving your stuff? Do you want me to move your stuff? Do you want to move it with me? Do you want to go through it? Do you want to do anything? Like, this is your stuff. Do you want to do anything with it? There was nothing like that. There was no communication about it. I don't want to use this brush. There was no communication about it whatsoever. Like, he didn't even tell me that he had moved it until I got there one day, and I was like, oh, okay. A lot of my stuff is moved, because I had needed to get a couple of things. And, like, we were getting down to the wire of deciding, of, like, moving out, like, getting all of our stuff out of the house. And this was during the week that he was gone. And honestly, that's when I wanted to move my stuff, while he was not around, while he was not in the general vicinity, because it was going to be difficult. It was going to be really hard. Like, I wanted to move my stuff and get away. And I wanted to start with that middle section. The biggest thing that I cared about was my makeup. And I know that sounds really vain, and you can think that. I don't really care. But it's very important to me. It's a really big part of who I am. It's a really big outlet for me. It's a really big way for me to get my feelings out, to express myself, because I can't draw, and I wish I could, but I can't. So makeup for me is my art form. So this is part of who I am, is doing my makeup. It helps me. It helps me focus on myself. It helps me feel good about myself. It helps me get out my emotions when I have a lot. So I really did want my makeup to be with me. And so that was really where I wanted to start, was by moving my makeup and stuff like that. And he had ended up moving most of my stuff. And he had locked me out of the room that we had shared. So I wasn't even able to look and see if all of my stuff had been taken out of the room. Which, fun fact, it hadn't been. I don't know, it was a huge deal. I'm not going to get into that, but there was a lot of fighting amongst roommates about it. And that was definitely the deciding factor of, I need to get my stuff and I need to get out. And I did. it was just a lot. And I really honestly don't want to get into the details of moving out of that place and the drama and the just, I never did anything to these people, and they attacked me like I was the worst person they've ever met. And I never did anything that was kind to them. I even paid part of their rent when we first moved in, and they treated me like garbage. And that's fine. You want to treat me like garbage? I don't need you in my life. Like, garbage goes right into the garbage truck, buddy. Like, go for it. I'm glad that that's no longer a part of my life. So we're not going to focus on that. And I was very grateful. I am still very grateful to the people that let me stay with them for the month and a half that I did. Rent-free. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have their hospitality or didn't have their willingness to help me out in this situation. I don't know what I would have done. So I am still to this day incredibly grateful for them. You know who you are if you're watching. You know who you are. Now that I am in my own apartment with my own space and I'm able to do my own thing, things are a lot different. I'm able to express myself freely. I'm able to put up weird pictures of skeletons. It's very judgment free. Not a lot of people know this, but I am currently living with my current partner, who is one of the best people I've ever met in my whole life. And I'm really happy. To see and feel the difference from 3 months ago to now is ridiculous. And I can't even explain what it's like to finally be able to breathe. Without thinking about it, because there have been so many instances in my life where I've had to think before I speak or think before I do things or just make sure that I'm doing things correctly. And with my partner now, he says the only right way to do it is just to be me, and I have to do what's right for me. And it's amazing when you have someone that truly supports you, doesn't just say, oh, I support you, but truly supports you and lets you be who you are. I don't even know how to explain it, but the difference is just amazing, and I'm so incredibly grateful to be where I am and have someone that helps me every day and will literally block off crowds for me. He'll literally just like pummel his way through crowds if I don't like it. And it's fantastic. Just being with someone that also puts you first while you're putting them first is different in the best way possible. So I went through actual garbage fire to get to where I am now, but I'm very, very grateful for where I am now, and I don't have any tissue in this general areas. Ugh, I did all this and now I'm gonna ruin all of it by crying like a baby. Whatever. So where I am now is a lot better than 3 months ago.
before, and I want to say in pretty much every other relationship that I've ever had, my partner doesn't really know how to handle my anxiety. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't necessarily expect it. That's not at all what I'm looking for in a relationship. That's not at all what I'm looking for from a partner, is for things to be automatically fixed by my partner, because that's not how this works. Like, obviously I want you to be there for me if I need you to be there for me, but it's not your responsibility to make me feel better. And honestly, 95% of the time, other people can't. I have to be able to fix it for myself. I don't want to say fix it for myself, but I have to be able to put my mind into a different headspace. Like, obviously, people around me can try to help, maybe by distracting me or reminding me, like, hey, remember those 5 things that we were talking about? Let's look at those 5 things. What are 5 things in the room right now? But I have to be the one that focuses on those 5 things, not this other person. However, having a partner currently that, I don't want to say he fully understands, because he doesn't understand what it's like to have anxiety, because he doesn't have anxiety. He is the most outgoing person that I've ever known. Like, he'll literally poop on a car. Like, he doesn't care. Doesn't get anxious over large crowds. Like, he literally doesn't care. Like, it doesn't matter to him. And knowing that crowds bother me, obviously he is willing to take the brunt of it. Like, he doesn't care. Brush up against me, like, hit me in the shoulder. Like, that doesn't bother me. So he very much will take the brunt of it and literally just, like, guide me through crowds. And it helps me so much. And honestly, I'm laughing through it instead of, like, freaking out when I normally would be freaking out. And he never ever makes me feel like a burden, or like my anxiety is getting in the way, or like it's an issue. He never makes me feel that way, even though sometimes I make myself feel that way. He is always just like, what can we do to fix it? Like, what do you need me to help you with? Like, how can I help you? And it's so crazy because he's so very aware of when things do bother me, or when I'm anxious or I'm not feeling okay about something. He's very aware. He's very aware of when I am not comfortable. And he'll always ask me, where do we need to go? What do we need to do? Like, what do we need to do to make you feel better, or make the situation better, whatever it is, where I'm so used to it being, I have to completely solve it all by myself or completely alone. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom for like 15 minutes and freak out and literally cry my face off until I feel better. Or what the actual worst possible thing for me to do is literally just pretend it's not happening, and sometimes just block out everything that's happening. That is not good. I am the type of person where I need to face my problems head on, and I need to figure out, first off, what it is that's causing me an issue, and then what I need to do to be able to solve that problem. But if I feel like I'm being a burden to the other people in my general vicinity, I'm just gonna choke it down. So having someone that's so willing to help me and take care of me and help me through issues, as opposed to making me feel like I'm a burden, is a really big deal. And it's something that I honestly never thought that I was going to be able to experience, just because I'm used to being alone. I'm used to dealing with my issues on my own, because I do feel like a burden. So this is definitely very different for me. But I'm very, very happy, and I'm very grateful. I do not know where I would be without him. So I don't want to say that my anxiety is completely gone. My anxiety, I don't think, is ever going to go completely away. But it's definitely easier now that I feel like I have a partner that is on the same level as me. It's just very different. And the best best way possible. I'm learning a lot about myself because I'm able to speak freely. I am still working on that personally because, again, I'm so used to being told that what I'm feeling isn't okay, or a lot of the times I'm made to feel guilty for feeling the way that I feel. So what I can say that I've learned in the last couple of months is that I am the most important person in my life. If I'm not taking care of myself, how can I expect to take care of other people that I care about? Because there are a lot of people in my life that I definitely love more than I love myself. However, if my needs are not being met and I'm not being taken care of, whether I'm not meeting my own needs or I'm not taking care of myself, or the people in my life are not doing that for me, or they are becoming a negative impact on my life as opposed to a positive impact on my life, I need to take care of that. I need to address that, and I need to make the changes that are necessary. And that is a really big deal for me because I have always just put other people first, and that has caused me a lot of heartache and a lot of grief. And I'm not saying, F everybody else in your life, like hashtag treat yourself 24 hours a day, but I am saying take care of yourself. If you're not happy, figure out why. Find your happy. Find what makes you breathe again. I can't explain what it feels like. Like, I feel like a huge weight is lifted off of my shoulders, and I can literally take a deep breath with no effort. I'm doing my makeup. I'm making videos again. I'm being myself without having to think about it, without having to apologize about it, without having to make excuses. But the majority of the time I was made to feel like my partner needs to be the number one thing in my life, and that is definitely not the case, and that's also something that I've learned. Again, I'm the most important person in my life. I need to make sure that I am happy over everybody else. Otherwise, everyone else in my life is not going to be happy. So far, 2019 has been a lot about learning about myself. And let me tell you, when you figure yourself out, the whole world changes. So many things change, and so many things are put into perspective when you start doing what makes you happy. If you're not happy, figure out whatever it is that isn't making you happy and fix it. Make a change. Even if it's the most drastic change that you've ever made in your entire life, do it. It's gonna suck. It's going to suck in that moment, but it's gonna be worth it. When I ended my engagement, again, it was the hardest decision that I ever had to make in my entire life. In that moment, 24 hours later, I was so relieved. I am very happy with where I am right now. I'm very happy with myself. I'm very happy with the life that has literally just begun. I'm very excited to see what the future has in store. It's so different, like seeing my own personal potential. So again, my difficulties passed, and I'm here, and I'm happy, and I'm good. I might not be happy and good for forever, but I'm gonna hold on to what's good and happy right now until the next wave of dumpster fire comes at me, whatever it might be, even if it's something stupid. I'm going to hold on to this good for as long as I possibly can. Be you, be happy, stay strong, hang on. You're going to make it through whatever it is that you're going through. I think this is a good spot to end the video. If you made it this whole way through, oh boy. Anyway,
a lot of contour on my nose. That is a lot more than I wanted on there. Oh, we'll just put some more concealer on it in a second.
Like, he'll talk to anybody. If he knows you, he'll have a conversation with you. He'll stop and talk to anybody, whether he likes you or he doesn't like you. Like, he'll talk to anybody. I almost just cussed. I'm gonna do what makes me happy. And this is something that makes me happy. And I'm really, really happy. How many times can you say happy in one sentence? Something cannot but that's happen. Scissors up there. There you go, dropping something. Guess I still haven't gotten out of that. Dropping things in every single video.